Please join me with a huge round of applause in welcoming National Brand Head of Radio Network, Rithikesh Kannan.
Thank you so much, Aditi. Thank you, Rubina and Smriti, for coming all the way on a Sunday morning. It's not easy, and just to, as I was sharing with you, we have people from Pune, Bangalore, Chennai. We all have Hyderabad, Delhi,
Dubai.
Yeah, I met a lady in the elevator
yes,
from Dubai.
yes,
US.
Dubai and
So ignorant, I didn't recognize.
so Dubai, and also we have one participant from the US. So we are all here because they are all eager and for growth. And with that, today's topic that we wanted to discuss was about CXO branding. So in CXO Incubator, it's an emphasis that we do that apart from deliverables and skills that you have, one of the most important aspects is to start investing in your personal brand, which enables one person to take charge of their own self-growth and growth in terms of their career, in terms of their personality, which eventually leads to getting the right positions and taking leadership positions. And one of the ways is to do it in the most authentic and the most genuine manner of who you are, representing who your true self is. So the question that always comes up is about how does really one go about it, and what are the real thoughts behind, is it right if I go out too much, is it showing, being very showy, is it ingenuine? So a lot of people have these mindsets, and it's a barrier one has to cross, and I see all three of you as kind of representing and crossing and being at the epitome of branding, not just for your organizations but individually as a personal brand. So I felt you guys are the right people to explain, share your thoughts in this journey, and with that I will directly jump into some questions. So the way it will work is we'll ask each one of you some questions, and then you share your thoughts, your journey, and we'll open the question and answer for the audience, maybe a couple of questions, and then I think that will summarize the whole discussion. So often this question I would like to ask Rubina actually, I would like to start with you. Often people say that my work will speak for itself. So is that really enough? Can we actually say my work? How important is personal branding for CXOs in today's competitive business landscape? And what role does it play in shaping leadership effectiveness?
So yes, at the foundation of it, I think it's your work that speaks for you. When you're aspiring to be in a leadership role, so you've got to be very good at what you do. You've got to love what you do, and you've got to be above the others to be able to make that cut. But when you get into a space where there are 2 or 3 people aspiring for that one position on the top, is it enough to just let the work speak? The honest answer is no. At the end of the day, and this is not in today's world, and it's not because it's more competitive today. I think all the time business was the same. It was competitive, and there was a lot that was going on, and especially in India, there is whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you are professional, there's always been a lot of competition. What makes that little difference? At the end of the day, we are all human. It's about having trust and relationships, right? It does matter. That's how you break out and make a difference from the rest of the others. So for instance, when you meet people, the 3 people bringing you a similar kind of service or product, if you trust one person more, the other person has a more impact on you, that's what will be the one thing that will make the difference between the other 3 which have similar products or services, even in our day-to-day life, right? So how do you break through that? How is it that you make a more positive impact on the other person, whether it's your employer or your customers or anybody around, is something that I think one needs to think through and bring forward. And we may use words like personal branding, which sometimes can be very intimidating for a lot of people, but it's about internalizing, thinking, what is the uniqueness that you have in you? Why do you think you're better than the others? And how can you demonstrate it? Sometimes, and better still, in subtle ways, rather than going and tom-tomming to everybody that, I do this and I do that, because I don't think anybody appreciates that, right? How do you demonstrate that in your behavior? How do you bring that out? That's happens with some amount of self-awareness, and I think everybody should spend that time in, if you want to grow in your careers, to think about what is your differentiator, what is your uniqueness in the whole fabric of your organization. How is it that you bring things out? What is the difference that you bring to the table, and start building your own, professional personality around that. That's what I would say.
Thank you so much. Actually, that leads me to a next question to Smriti, which is like, a lot of time people feel talking about oneself it's like a brag, it's like something which is fake, or people feel that marketing is not something good it's good for companies but not good for me. But but we all know that it's important to highlight one's own strengths, one's own positives, negatives, and be more forthcoming. So what are your take? Is there any personal thing that you felt? Have you come across some people, or yourself, have you crossed over such thoughts? And how does one actually groom themselves to get out of that phase and feel that, okay, it's not really fake, it's about me putting my genuine self out there?
I think I couldn't have got like a more apt question, because I think I've always been someone who was very reticent about putting myself out there. That's what I told you when we first spoke as well. I was, I always say this, that I'm the backbencher and I'm the one who's, sort of working in the background. But I think being good at your work, constant performance, a deep understanding of your industry, the environment, acquiring skills consistently and delivering reliable performance, it takes you far. I think each of our journeys, and Rubina and I have actually worked together for quite a long time as well. Each one of our journeys has started with delivering on work. But I think you reach a point where it's a competitive environment. There are many takers for those limited positions. The place on the pyramid does reduce as you go forward. So given, the fact that there are 3 or 4 people who have the capability to put and it's not very different from how you would think of a product, right? A good physical product, right? In the end, something which speaks to you authentically, means something to you, you'll always go and invest time, effort, energy, money, and your confidence and faith in that product. It's similar for people, it's similar for leaders. How you get there is really a mix of, one, the performance, the other, the relationships that you build, the teams that you build, how much you invest in the growth of others along with you. It's all, teams succeed, individuals don't. But beyond a point, you have to realize that you have to take a step back. You have to build perspective on who you are, what you bring to the table, and effectively form strategies on how to communicate this internally, externally, at various platforms, in smaller meetings, in bigger meetings. And if you're not comfortable with, or if it doesn't come intuitively to you, well then today, upskilling tools, platforms, coaches, it's all available, and you must spend that amount of effort in learning those skills. Nothing is, and I think there's great strength and it's a really brave move to get out of your comfort zone and learn something which doesn't come intuitively to you.
Thank you so much, Smriti, for that insightful answer. In fact, I was just remembering our conversation, and actually, I want to ask Rishi about this. What was the out-of-box thinking that got your branding story to a next level? I mean, we Mumbaikars know Rishi K for eons now.
So sometimes what you think is out of the box thinking is actually just being incredibly smart. Now, Radhika said to quote real life examples, so I'm going to be very shameless and start quoting real life examples. But it will give you an insight into how you need to think if you're very serious about self branding. So, you know, the thing about performers, and I'm speaking from being a male performer, yeah, purely a male performer, is that when you're in front of the camera or the mic, sometimes people who are in sales or revenue functions think of you as the male equivalent of the dumb blonde. You know, and I'm sure Smriti, Radhika, Rubina, all of them have faced that discrimination in their life. Beautiful girl, attractive woman, akal ki kami hai, which is horrible, and that's how we brand people. So the male equivalent of that is ये तो नाचने गाने वाला है यार, मतलब ये कैमरा के सामने आता है या माइक पे आता है, which is not really the case, because you know I belong to a very traditional Tamram family, and I'm a postgraduate and distinction holder in my community, and Radhika will tell you that you're supposed to study, that's it. And I was more qualified than any of my friends in revenue and sales. So now here comes the real life example. Mergers and acquisitions sometimes are messy affairs, and just pre-pandemic, my radio network got acquired. And in that merger and acquisition, I knew that I had to make an impression on my new promoter, right? And somehow I got wind of the fact that the new promoter felt, oh my God, we're acquiring this radio network, which has a fantastic sales team. You know, fine. You know, I'm national brand head of the network. Find somebody who's heading the network perhaps has some leadership skills, but this is a crack sales team. Almost implying as though top management was indispensable, but maybe you need to keep the sales team. Little realizing that almost all, if not all, the major revenue deals or the sales deals that happened at the network were because of me and the contacts that I had and the networking that I had. So I did something just smart. I didn't speak about myself. When we moved to the new office after the acquisition, I have a CEO interview program called Minding My Business, the CEO Story. And I'd make sure that the biggest CEOs in the country would show up for my talk show when my new promoter was around. So Anand Mahindra would roll in, Harsh Mariwala, who you heard today, would roll in, Sam Balsara would roll in, Adi Godrej would roll in, and we'd do interviews with them. And obviously, I would tell my new promoter saying, hey, you know, Anand's in the house today, so maybe you'd like to exchange a few words. Make sure that the promoter was in their place of work. And I just make sure that that CEO would have a few minutes with the current promoter. And obviously, 9 times out of 10, they would say vibrant things about me. And so I didn't say anything. I let the others do the talking. And it just worked. And there was a rumor saying, oh my God, you know, there's a merger and acquisition. 2 branded थोड़ी हो सकते हैं, 2 CEO थोड़ी हो सकता है, ये वो. It just went through the door because somewhere along the line, the new owners, like I said, M&As are messy affairs, realized that, you know, this is a guy who could probably take their company to the next level, the network to the next level. So sometimes you just have to be a little smart about it. As opposed to tom-tomming your own achievements yourself, you might allow forces to play themselves out, just gently nudging left, right, and center. So that's a real life example that I can give you.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rishi, for that insightful sharing, because these are stories which we will not hear or speak about, or it's not normal to share, but I guess it's a very big lesson to take back for all our participants here. And with that, I would like to come to Rubina. How do you feel that now we have a room full of aspiring leaders and CXOs? So, what's your take on social media as a medium to share, express, and build one's brand? Does it really help, or it should be going the traditional way of building yourself within the organization alone?
I'm a digital marketer. Obvious answer I should say is yes. But I have to be honest, social media is a double-edged sword. Sometimes it can work really well for you, but when you put yourself out there, you've got to be open to the fact that you will get a lot of criticism, right? It could be from people you don't know, but you've got to have the confidence in yourself to accept that rather than just opposing it. And sometimes it helps you reflect through maybe somebody else's perspective on how you're thinking as well. But putting it more in context of a work environment, again, it's a double-edged sword. And I'll tell you, I personally have faced that, right? So I have a fairly active LinkedIn network, over 300K people who engage with me. Sometimes it's worked in my favor. In some of the organizations where I've worked, it's worked in my favor because people think that it's an asset that I bring to the organization, which can be leveraged for the organization. But I have to be also honest. Sometimes it's looked at as a little bit of a concern. That when my employers are talking to me or my bosses are talking to me, they feel like I hope she doesn't say something which is inappropriate on social media. So I think that bias goes against me to network as well. So one's really got to be, like I said, it's a double-edged sword. It's about biting the bullet and seeing what works for you. And to be honest, I think for me, it was never a strategy that I took that I got to be on social media and this is how I've got to plan it and this is what I should do. No, I think it happened along the way. And I didn't know what I would do on social media, especially on the professional front on LinkedIn. It started off with talking about a little bit about my company, a little bit about digital marketing. I've been in digital marketing companies all through, so talking about the work we do or about a little bit of what's happening in the ecosystem industry because everybody likes to catch up, learn. And along the way, I discovered that, I was focused on, especially like Rishi started off with the comment saying that there's a bias against women, especially women leaders. And when I was working, I didn't focus on it because I had my blinkers on, like Smriti said, you're really focused on your work. I didn't look left and right, but in a leadership position, I could see those biases against other women in the team. In my own team, there were biases. And that's why I started speaking openly about, women at work and women leadership and having a more inclusive work environment. And the third pillar was, I met a friend of mine who's also your friend Kavya, and I was talking to her, and everybody would, she told me once that, Rupina, everybody loves the way you dress in media. Why don't you talk about, workwear fashion on LinkedIn? And I was like, really? She's like, yeah. And I put out a couple of posts. I thought a few people thought it was frivolous, but I believed in it. And there are a lot of people today, a lot of women especially today, who love it and who write to me on DMs and they want to talk about workwear fashion, not fashion that you see on Instagram or parties or when you're going out or traveling, but how you dress appropriately for a work event or at office or meetings, etc. Right? So it's about putting yourself out there. There are some people who may still judge, saying that she's a bit frivolous, but you got to be, when you're on social media, my advice is you got to be a little bit more thick-skinned and not take things very, very seriously. You got to do things what you believe in and then be consistent at it and follow it through. Whether that is enough to get you in your journey of leadership? No, it's definitely not. It's definitely not. So if one believes that, I'll build my social footprint and that will help me get jobs or get me noticed within the organization. Like I said, sometimes it's a double-edged sword. I think to get to a leadership position, the traditional way is definitely still, I think, the key. And the key is like what Rishi shared was very insightful instance what happened to him, which he kind of let others do the talking. Well, at some point in my career, I think what I did was I was very clear, I was very ambitious right from the beginning, and I know, and Smriti just talked about, we worked together. I know when I was hired for the job, the typical interview question was, and I was quite young at that point in time, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? And I actually said as CEO of this company, and they were like shocked. And who was interviewing me was that time Harish Chavla, the CEO of the company, and he was shocked. He's like, you think you can be in my position? I said, if you are 40 years old and you can do this, why can I not? And I think after that, I think it worked for me. He took a shine for me. And after that, I would say he was not just my mentor, but also my sponsor, who actually told me how to get there because he knew I wanted to get there. So he made me do things, to get there.
I just want to, with your permission, Radhika, can I just add? I've known Rubina for a while, and at this point in time, I'm a massive fan of hers, apart from being a friend. What we can all learn from, and I believe the CXO Incubator is all about learning, is how she uses different platforms for different things. If you see Rubina on Instagram, and you see Rubina on LinkedIn, it's the same personality, but she knows what to use LinkedIn for, and she knows what to use Instagram for. And often, that is something people don't get right. They feel it's social media, copy-paste, market, kar do sab kuch. It doesn't work that way. Even if you want to convey the same thought in two different social media platforms, you reconfigure things to suit that particular audience. And I think she's a master at that. And it's something that we can all learn from. So if you don't follow her, I think it's about time you did. It's Rubina with a double E on LinkedIn. Good. Great. So let's add to her followers. Not that she needs it because she has so many, but just saying, something for us to learn from.
Thank you. I am so glad to see the camaraderie here, and that just says that I have done my job well. I don't have to speak now, so I don't have to think of the next question. I have a question for Smriti here, of course, that how does one build trust on authenticity to when you're on the journey of increasing and enhancing one's visibility? When the reason I'm asking is, as you said, the pyramid is narrow at the top, and it gets narrower and narrower. And we have a lot more contenders who are good, who are mavericks in their own way, and yet those who shine gets picked up. So how does one actually polish the diamonds to make it happen? Because it's the polish that makes it really usable.
Can I also actually start with another
Yeah,
way?
sure.
There's also constant performance, and then there is growth, and there's more achievement. I think one of the other things that gets very often overlooked is getting someplace is easy, staying there is really hard, and I think the people who make it to the top, and I think Rishi spoke about his experience, Rubina will tell you that she's had it as well, is how do you deal with, how do you endure the lows in your career? Because we'll all have them, right? So and this is, I think, my personal experience. I worked for about 12 years in the same company. I've gone from being a manager to the CEO. But this has not been a linear upward journey. There are years where you go through a bad phase, and then you come back and you go through a good phase, and that good phase goes away. So really, I think building the CXO brand comes later, but first building a CXO is about how you stack up your losses with your wins. And that's really the journey, the mindset that each one of us have to crack. That's the step one. Then comes putting some distance between that journey and yourself and really thinking about what you stand for, what you don't, and that before it reaches social media, it has to emanate in how you deal with your contemporaries, your seniors, and your teams. They have to believe, it has to be authentic, what you stand for, it has to be consistent with the people that you stand for. And I think the last part, and this is what I have basically learned, I think, in the last 2 or 3 years, that when I was a revenue head, when I was a sales head, most of my success depended on the market, on my clients. Today, my success depends as much on my internal stakeholders than it does on my clients, right? So you have to build the faith of the market, the clients, whatever your customer base is, and then you have to be able to use that to gain that confidence from internal stakeholders. So that's really the transition which each one of us have to successfully make from being middle management to top management to real top management.
Super. Thank you so much. Any personal story, any personal breakthrough that you had during this? So you started off at a management level and then you rose up the ranks. So I'm sure each one of us have gone through different journeys. Any specific area which you would like to share where you took a specific thing that you did which was a game changer for you?
You know, I don't have a sharp answer to it. It was not one specific thing. It was just consistent work. It was consistent learning. I have spent, when I joined CNBC back in 2011, I came from Cartoon Network. So I went from, working in the space of Tom and Jerry and Chhota Bheem to suddenly, talking about the economy, business, markets, etc. And I had very little understanding of the space. So I remember actually sitting down with things like the Forbes India, like the Economic Times, watching CNBC, and really sometimes memorizing the language. What is an SME? What is an MSME? What is the capital market, Nifty, Sensex? I actually learned those things like you would learn in school, right? And you have to invest yourself in that success. Every deal, every target, you have to get behind it. And I say this very often to my teams. I mean, it's probably not the most correct thing to say, but you have to be mental about your work, right? So at some point, there's no alternative to that. You have to be super passionate about it, and then you have to be authentically, honestly passionate about it. It's not about salespeople get seen as client ko ullu bana. That's not how it works. It works with making promises, delivering on those promises, and honestly saying when you can't deliver on those promises, right? So that's really been the journey, the learning. Thank you. And I've built on that consistently, honestly.
Rubina, you wanted to add to it?
I want to add to that Smriti talked about the highs and lows, and everybody has them in their career. I don't think for me it was the low, and I told you briefly that I was very ambitious and I was very vocal as well, that where I wanted to be, and I stated that, right? And I did tell my bosses or the top bosses at that point in time, they were my super bosses, where I wanted to be. And I was hired, to be on CNBC TV 18. I'm talking about, maybe, about 17, 18 years ago. It was great to be working in television those days, and I was really at the top of it. After being a top performer there, having top positions there, Forbes India was launching in the country. And they said, you have to lead Forbes India. And if you look at it, it seems like going reverse in your direction. From moving from television to print seemed like a step down, right? And everybody across my peers at that time in the organization, they thought it was a punishment posting, right? But there was a plan that he had in mind for me. When I said that they were not just my mentors, but they were sponsors who helped me get to my success, right? And my first reaction as well was that listen, I've been a top performer, getting you the maximum dollars, and from managing the maximum dollars, you're putting me to something which the market size is not as big. So why are you wasting resource there? That was my question to them. That aren't you making a wrong error in judgment by wasting a company resource, putting them in a market size which is so small? And they said, no, we're trying to groom you for bigger things. And I didn't get it. And I was very, very upset about it, in all honesty, at that point in time. But on the hindsight, when I look at it, it really worked out, because that gave me an understanding of a tough market, allowed me to think beyond the core vertical that I started looking at, which was business, but also look at other areas, collaborate with and respect people who are editorial content creators, etc. And so that helped me. But I can say that on the hindsight. But at that point in time, did I like it? No, I did. Did I not resent it? I resented it. Did I think they had a bias against me? I thought they had a bias against me, right? But sometimes, you got to play along, stay in the journey, like Smriti said, through your lows, play along, still keep your head down, work, perform, and then you know that maybe, there's some good in it that will come out later. Yeah.
Lovely. So, Rishi, could you just share something about building, whenever one wants to invest? Now that a lot of people actually are from IT space here, IT and finance, typically it's like, it's not mostly a very front-ended role, but many of them have the aspirations of becoming the chief technology officers and digital officers and various positions. Now, as we discuss about the pyramid getting narrower, so building this brand becomes to make it authentic, it has to become a habit. It is not something you start on something and you do. Most of them go and update their LinkedIn when they want to find a new job. So if you see suddenly an activity happening on LinkedIn, they get pinged and asked, oh, are you looking for a job? Okay, that's how the corporate world assumes themselves whenever there is an activity on LinkedIn. And it's a good platform, as she said, she's shared that it's not the only thing to do, but it's one of the things to do among the various things. So if you have to summarize it into a 3-step formula, that one has to take that initiative right now, do you have some thoughts about what can be done, how to build that as a habit?
There's no substitute to authenticity. Often when you're leading up to what you think could possibly be a CXO role for you, the only person who's limiting yourself is you. Oh, I'm a tech guy. I'm not front-facing. I've always been back-end. Do I have to be an extrovert? Do I have to say more than what I mean to say? I mean, the classic example is the father of our nation, right? Bapu, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi. If he had turned around and said, I'm a middle-class Gujarati guy who doesn't speak English with an accent or is not so eloquent as the rest, would he have ever gone to South Africa? Would he have ever gone to Churchill, Mountbatten, conversed with these colonials and helped us get freedom? He realized that he could internalize peace, he could internalize his satyagraha, but if he had to get the message out there, he would have to put into words what he feels deep down inside. So do yourself a favor. Just externalize what you feel inside. I'm not asking you to become an extrovert from an introvert, but at least jo khwaishein hain, jo tamannaएं hain, like she had a khwaish, an ambition of being a CEO. She put it out there. That's all I'm asking you to do. I'm not saying, oh my God, you have to now take a class on how to sit around a fufa table and use cutlery. How you need to speak English with a particular accent. The best time to be regional and the real you is now. Because everybody started realizing. everybody started realizing that the real Bharat is in the state you belong to. I love that all these people who are introducing us today, you know, one had a pronounced South Indian accent, somebody had a Guju accent, Marathi accent, speaking in English, but they were confident enough to get up and say things about Smriti, about Rubina, about myself. And I thought that was exceptional. So that's the only thing I can say to you. I mean, you don't have to radically become some other person. Just externalize what you deeply feel. And it's not difficult to do. All you have to do is rehearse it with yourself a few times and it becomes natural because you feel it. That's it.
Thank you so much. Lovely. So actually, as an extension of what you said, this is my 2 bits on this subject is that when you know your purpose as to why you do what you do, the branding is just an outcome of the whole process. And I feel that even India, Bharat, that we are today, where the world is now talking about us, is because of our leaders who have gone out and spoken about our country and have taken it to a larger purpose. Sharing the purpose becomes a very important. So if each one of us know our purpose, I guess branding is just one aspect of it, because it's not, you no longer do it for yourself, it is for the purpose of that message, it is for the mission that you want to achieve. That branding becomes part of it. I think with that, I think we are running a little, we are kind of completing this. I'm coming to you.
Yeah.
Yes. So we will now open the thing for Q&A, but before that I would like request Dr. Vicky Mehta to share his thoughts. He's been so kind, he's come right in the morning, been an absolute partner for us during this event, and I express my gratitude to him.
No, please don't. Please don't.
We are really waiting for your Energizer session after
Yes,
this.
of course. I hope the beautiful ladies stay back, but I'm sure it's a Sunday. Your family must be waiting for you some other day. Rishike, we've been working together for almost 17 years. I never saw you as a male performer that you said. What is this about being a male performer? Of course, that's a joke. But
You never saw me because you're too busy watching the ladies.
you know, even when I was grooming Femina Miss India, even during those days, I was looking after you too. But you never introduced me to your bosses, although I've been coming to you almost every morning for the morning show.
Vicky Mehta needs no introduction.
Okay, thank you.
Why would you need an introduction? You don't need it.
Thank you. Rubina, I mean, you're sitting in a very wonderful, responsible position, and I always tell everybody who are worth their salt that don't try and be an influencer, try and develop yourself, cultivate yourself to become an institution. Because I feel very jealous of people who do this and get millions of following. I get jealous of guys who show a lot of body and they have millions of following. And for somebody who's dishing out great content is neglected. Now, what is that missing, that lacuna in the social media vicious circle, as I may say, that mornings are flooded with Sadhguru and nights are flooded with Sunny Leone. So how do we rectify that and give rise to meaningful, purposeful content? Because what Radhika says, that everybody is talking about finding the purpose, but doing purposeful things is more important.
I think, it's a problem of our generation who got exposed to social media much later in our lives. That we're stuck in that routine. But if you see younger people, and I work, I'm fortunate in the digital industry, I work with much more younger people. They're already looking at more purposeful things. And I think one thing for everybody that can help them break out and create a voice for themselves, I think I'm going to build on what Rishi just said, being authentic, right? Often when people want to build their digital footprint or do things, they look at, like people you said, they look like people like that and they want to go that whole copycat model. It doesn't work. It doesn't work at all because there's enough and more of that happening. You have to look at what really you feel for, what your purpose is, like what Radhika said. What is your purpose? What is it that you really feel passionate about, energetic about, and where you think you can create a positive impact by sharing something. I think if you start doing that, or that's been my experience and that's what I've tried to do, I think it does help. And when I write, for those of you who look at my LinkedIn, for instance, sometimes there is an error in the grammar, sometimes there's a full stop missing, sometimes there's a comma which is in the incorrect space. That's because I'm writing it. I'm not getting a content writer to write it for me with, dotting the I's and crossing the T's, and that's okay. And a lot of people write into me, oh, do you need a content writer to do it better for you? And I say, no, it's okay, I'm human, I can also make mistakes. And I don't edit it, even if somebody points out, because that's what is real. Right? Yeah.
You said you work with younger people, but you never worked with me though.
So now.
Okay, great. Coming to Smriti ji. Now this is a very blunt and a very honest question. It might hurt the audience ears and might even hurt your sentiments. It will be an eye-opener. So way back 30-40 years when I started, I was the first one out there. I was very privileged to be working with the Jains of the Times of India, the Goenkas of the Express, the likes of Pradeep Goa, Uday Shankar, Malvika Sangvi. They're all my clients. Uday Shankar ji, when he started with me, of course, he was just, he got asked up to #1 position and he moved to Star India.
Yes.
Now those days, television, anchors, journalists had a voice. Today, they've lost their voice. Because we see media houses aligned with different political parties. And they have to follow the narrative. And having watched media so closely, media houses, media honchos, I see that somewhere people of India are losing out. This happens in America also, everywhere. There is CNN, there is Fox, okay? There is CNBC. Now, I just want to know that will that voice ever come back, or that voice will always be curbed, controlled?
I think in all fairness, she runs a business channel. So I think it would be little, pushing her back to the wall, asking about news.
No, Joe's
But anyway,
overall,
in her defense.
your view, but should you feel being in a spot and not want to answer that, please be comfortable. We understand where you come from.
I think, Nikki, it's an evolution. The world is going through it. It's going to be a generational thing. As a civilization, we are going through some flux. Within businesses, media is a reflection of that change. Whether times will change or not, we'll all see.
And lastly to Radhika, we had to come together to collaborate and do work, and not just this, we'll be doing a lot of work because I believe I'm a Krishna, you are a Radha. So obviously we have to associate. Please excuse me, the husband, Raj, naam to suna hi hoga, is in the audience. But Radhika, I just want to ask you something. What Rishikesh said, that you are so comfortable in your skin, coming from a background of being an investment banker or being a banker, and then of course worked for Marico earlier. You're very educated, you speak very well, you're very erudite, very elitist, yet you comfortably carry your South Indian accent. Now, I'm very certain you're aware about it, but what is that level of confidence? Because you must be traveling worldwide. What is that level of confidence which makes you not change that and makes you very comfortable saying that this is right for me?
Firstly, I will be very honest that people told me that I have a South Indian accent when I speak Hindi. Okay, so this is the first time I'm hearing for English, but I'm aware that there is a bit of accent, but it really doesn't bother me because this is the voice I have, this is the way I have been groomed, and I'm completely comfortable in my Indian clothes as much as in my Western outfits. And for me, it has never been something that I ever bothered about it. So I guess it goes back to maybe my roots, where I have my parents also in the audience today, where my mom has always groomed me to say that be comfortable who you are, you don't have to change yourself, and being yourself is what is going to make you who you are, and that's the uniqueness. I mean, if each one of us have to look at our palm, we all have been given one unique ID. I mean, this is what we first we started with this, then we did this, now we are going back to this. So the reason is no, we do this, then we do this, so we have gone back. This just determines that each one of us is unique, and each one of us is a masterpiece in themselves. And when the Creator has made each one of us so unique, why should I, who am I to change it?
South Indians are very rooted people. Rishika doesn't want to change also. He likes being what he is.
I would like to share my experience.
If she allows.
Very fast.
You know, I want to say that next year in the CXO Incubator, there should be one session of just Mickey Mehta asking questions. That should be the highlight.
Yes, we just want...
You know, it's such a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, we are running out of time, but we will take one question from the audience. Yes.
Good morning.
I'll give her.
What a great session it was, and since morning it has been very pleasing. But I was resonating with what Smriti was saying, because I also come from a background of sales, started with sales and moved on. So I wanted to understand from you, and I'm watching it very much these days, that is it true that things which you know the least and you have that passion towards it are the ones which actually give you a lot and much more success or advantage or impact than the ones which you are educated on or the one for which you are doing a role? And if you could answer that, I think not just me, a lot of people will be benefited, because some of that have that inhibition that, oh, I know very little about this, can I really do it? So your views would be really great.
You know, it's actually two things. I think sometimes if you don't know much about it, you'll have the confidence because you won't have the complicated experience of the pitfalls. You'll have the confidence / instinct to go out there and commit to doing it, right? The other way is also true, that if you have a lot of knowledge, it gives you a very experienced view on taking a decision or not. Honestly, my experience is that I lead with instinct more than I lead with knowledge, data and experience. So trust your instincts. If you've worked long enough, trust the experience and the skills that your journey has given you. Put your neck on the line sometimes. Take a chance on yourself. Take a chance on the team that you've built, and go out there and set some goals and achieve them. Sometimes you'll make mistakes. That's also all right, because everything will not be achieved, and don't set those goals for yourself.
Thank you. Lovely.
Thank you, ma'am.
With that, we have to wrap it. We are really
We are running out of time.
very,
Please, yeah.
yes.
Thank you so much to the panel members for sharing your experience. Now I call upon Mohan for a quick vote of thanks.
Good morning, everybody. To sum this up, the entire panel discussion, I could bring it in 3 phrases. Phrase number 1 was be passionate, be purposeful, and be authentic. I think this summarizes the entire thing that we had today. Thank you, the panel. It was very nice.
More nice earrings.
Thank you so much. You want that?
I couldn't spot them as well as you do.
What do they signify?
Fashion. Okay. So the key takeaways for me was there is no substitute to authenticity. I think if anything got repeated multiple times, it was being authentic, and that's something that I believe in very strongly. And one thing that resonated with me when it came to authenticity is be prepared during the transition, and to be authentically passionate about it. So I think this is the one big takeaway that I have, and I'm sure you all resonate with it. Then stay in the journey, be yourself, and the results will eventually come. And of course, the results will be good. And externalize what you feel from inside is another fantastic insight that I got from this. And to you, Rishi, out of the box is being incredibly smart. The smart you are that you showed it. Thank you so much. And trust, impact, personal branding, these are the ones which create a differentiator, and let's all do it. Thank you so much. Now, as a token of appreciation, I would request Radhika to present a memento from our side.